tell me a bit about yourself and what you want to do and stuff like that. Then I can start giving you in the context of that, I can give you some conversation.
Well, right now, I'm a freshman here at OU. I'm in computer engineering, and I'm trying to get just my basics out of the way. And the more I've explored computer engineering and computer science, the more I realize that engineering is definitely the field, and the technology end of it really fascinates me. Innovations.
Are you from Oklahoma?
Yes, I'm from Alva, Oklahoma, which is up in the northwest part of the state.
And what do you want to do after your degree?
I'm really considering at least getting a master's degree before I go into the workforce. Like I said, I really want to work on engineering the new designs of technology. And so I'd like to get as much education as I can that'll help me in order to do that to the best of my ability.
So you're interested in value creation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the answer to your first question is with regards to all the areas of study at the University of Oklahoma, what makes engineering unique and exciting to those who have a passion for mathematics, logic, and ingenuity?
Yeah.
And what you've answered the question.
Yeah.
And that's what I wrote to you. My answer was, provides the opportunity for you to create value for various stakeholders, that is, contribute to the well-being of others, including plants, animals, and fish.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what is unique about engineering. No, I shouldn't say unique about engineering. Let me take that back. Human beings like to create value.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, a musician creates value, but that value is anchored in music theory.
Mm-hmm.
Engineers create value, and their value is anchored in physics, chemistry, and biology. That's the difference. So humans like to create value. So, for example, a person who becomes a chef doesn't go to a university.
Mm-hmm.
Why does that person do it? Likes to create value, likes to mix things, so that's where that comes in.
Yeah.
So the idea of value, why do people want to create value? Because human beings are nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, the chef creates value to put food on the table,
Mm-hmm.
to make money for his family or her family.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's to make people happy. The musician does the same thing. The engineer should do the same thing. And the engineer has a very important responsibility, because out of all the professions, the engineer is sanctioned by society to change the environment.
Mm-hmm.
A musician doesn't change the environment. A chef doesn't change the environment.
Yeah.
But an engineer and the associated disciplines have been sanctioned to change the environment. You can put roads, or you can dig up something, or you can put buildings up. That affects the environment.
Yeah.
So there's a special responsibility on engineers to take care of plants, animals, and fish.
Mm-hmm. Very true. And so that's what really makes engineering different from all our other fields, is that we do a lot of changes to our environment and the world, and we have a special responsibility.
That's the responsibility side. That's the uniqueness side of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the first part of the question, what makes engineering exciting, or the second part of the question, what makes it exciting, is the creation of value.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you could create value. It also gives you the opportunity to help humanity, to help others, to make things happen. You could create value and say, I'm not going to help other people.
Yeah.
That's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But you have the opportunity to create value for the betterment of humankind.
Yeah.
And that is that's a value neutral statement, because a chef does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
A seamstress does the same thing. The musician does the same thing. So the gift that you have is that you're able to cope with math, physics, chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore this is the domain in which you've been blessed with that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're not able to cook.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not able to play music. But your talent is math, physics, chemistry. Therefore, engineering is right for you. If your talent was in the culinary arts, that's equally good.
Mm-hmm. So moving on to question 2, as an engineer, what would you say the most difficult obstacle to overcome has been from a personal standpoint?
Yeah. let me ask you some things, and then in that context, let
All
me
right.
answer your question. Uh, now that you spent a month and a half, 2 months at the university, what have you found to be the most difficult?
I think time has been the biggest issue, finding the best way to use my time in order to meet both the requirements of me and
Yeah. You'll find exactly the same thing being difficult in all professions. So, to put it in a slightly different way, it's managing time and managing expectations. Take that down. Managing time and managing expectations. Now, expectations come from two sides. One is what you're expected to do by others, and two is what you wish to do for yourself. Okay? I'm going to explore this expectation deal a little further. As a child, you try and live up to your parents' expectations. As a young adult and as you grow older, you have to live up to your own expectations. It doesn't matter what people think of you. It is, at the end of the day, what you think of yourself. Right? So to do that, you need to know what your strengths are and your weaknesses are. Very important. And then you have to make a conscious decision. Do I really want to reduce my weaknesses and make them into strengths? Or do I want to just continue working on my strengths? That is a difficult problem, because throughout your life you will have weaknesses. And it's so easy to focus just on your strength. So now, to answer your question, what is the most difficult thing you have to do? Or what I have to do? Doing things I don't like. I face it at my age, you face it at your age. It's so easy to say, I'm not going to do this homework, or because there's a football game and I have to go and cheer. This is tough, so I'm not going to do it. Oh, the professor is lousy, therefore I'm not going to do it. I'm not interested in this, therefore I'm not going to do it. So the most difficult thing is to bring yourself to do things that are good for you and that you don't like doing.
Very true.
So in my case, I find grading to be a horrible thing. I hate grading. That doesn't mean I don't like to mark things, give feedback, do all that stuff. That I have no hassle with. But I find grading to be horrible. So at the end of the semester, when I give an A, minus, B plus, all this, I find it horrible. So to me, what is the most difficult part is to say, I know I need to do this, it's good for me, it's good for the system, but I hate it.
What about from a professional standpoint?
You'll find that'll be exactly the same thing. Because if you take charge of your life, then what matters is, then it, for example, in a professional standpoint, supposing you found that your co-worker was unethical or not doing the right thing. Do you like to go and snitch on the person? No. But it's the right thing to do. So whether it's in profession or in your personal life or whatever it is, doing things that are right that you don't want to do is very hard.
So would you generalize that integrity is one of the biggest factors in any field of, whether it's engineering or anything that you go into?
Yes, and it ties in with this whole notion of taking charge of your own life. Can you respect yourself at the end of the day? It's easy to tell a white lie and get away with it. But is that the right thing to do? So ethics and integrity is critical. And when I talk about ethics and integrity, it's not at the superficial level. It's at the deep level. That's very difficult.
So, as far
So for
as
example, you're here, and say you blow your test. Will you tell your parents? My hope is yes.
yeah,
And they'll say, what happened? How did it happen? So will you say, oh, the professor's bad? No. What you will say is, I goofed up here, I goofed up there, this is how I'm going to fix it. So it's an issue of taking responsibility. It's that type of ethics I'm talking about. If it's black and white, it's easy to talk about it. But it's in the gray area where you have a choice, where you can get away with it.
very true. Moving on to question number 3. Looking back on your own life, what do you believe has played the biggest part in helping you achieve your success as an engineer?
In my case, it's a passion to help others. You see, it's not as an engineer, it is my profession. I happen to believe that being a professor is the best job in the world. Okay? The only thing better than that is being married to one. I said that if you remember.
Yeah.
So why did I become a professor? I didn't start off wanting to be a professor. I started off by saying I was going to join the Indian Navy and build submarines. But then I went and interned for the Indian Navy, and I went and interned at the dockyards, the government dockyards, and I said, this is not for me. And this is reflection and introspection. Now imagine I'm all set to do that. The Indian Navy is ready to give me an appointment, a commission, a long service commission, a 21-year commission, whereas all my other colleagues were getting 7-year commissions, short service commission. And I said no. My colleagues retired as rear admirals 10 years ago. And now they're in second jobs and all this sort of stuff with a great pension and things like that.
Wow.
And I said no. Because I found out that wasn't for me. So I looked around and said, what do I like doing? I was involved in dramatics and acting. I was involved in debates. And lots of people would come and ask me, how do you do this, how do you do that, how do you do the other thing, all this sort of stuff. And I thoroughly enjoyed showing them how to do it. So I said, aha. That's what a professor does. He talks, he acts, meets with people, helps people.
Yeah.
And so what's needed? So I said, I'm going to get a PhD and become a professor. Now, if I only, at that stage, I had no idea that this helping thing was an important issue. But when I look back at my career of 40 years, it's very much the case. My mother, for example, at that stage it didn't strike me, but looking back at it, she joined the armed forces as a medical doctor. She worked with General Chennault on the Burma front as he was ferrying aircraft over the Himalayas to Burma. And there were black soldiers out there that white American doctors refused to treat. So she volunteered for that. Being an Indian, she was treating black soldiers. Then when I was born, she retired from the army and started her dispensary in the slums of the city to help prostitutes.
Wow.
Now, that's amazing. Now that's part of our genes, I suspect. But at that stage I had no idea that that's what was happening to me. My grandfather, that's my mother's father, he went and got his medical degree in Germany in those days. This is in the early 1900s. And he went to the forest and set up his practice to help the indigenous forest people. Why did he do that? I mean, imagine that. After getting a degree from Germany to go off in there. So this must be in my genes. I didn't know that. I mean, it was there, but it didn't strike me.
Wow.
And so when I look back and I think about the answer for you, the answer is you need to have a passion to invest in and help others. So why am I doing what I'm doing? What is the biggest part for my success? When you look at success, I believe that happy people are always successful. That's a quote. Successful people are not necessarily happy. If you want to take a quote, that's the quote. Happy people are always successful. Successful people are not necessarily happy. So to me, having a passion to help people makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm successful.
Along the same lines as the steps to take for success, do you believe that for a person who wants to enter the field of engineering to actually get a job and work for a company, how far do you believe education should be pursued? Do you believe master's, PhD?
Well, I think I'll tell you what I believe in. You need to get the highest education, the highest degree that your GPA will allow you to do. It's not whether you have the brains or you don't have the brains. It's what GPA you're able to get. If you get a low GPA, that's out of the question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But if you have a high GPA, you have a choice. And in my case, I would tell you point blank that it is your responsibility to get a PhD. Now, to get a PhD, what do you need? You need a high GPA.
Mm-hmm.
So that means from now you have to shoot for a high GPA, and it may be that that's not what you want to do, and that's difficult for you. But you have to shoot for it. It may be easier for you to say, well, I want to get involved in this team or this club or the other thing. But when push comes to shove, knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
People pay you for knowledge. So let me show you some statistics. If you get a bachelor's degree, this is 2009 figures.
Mm-hmm.
Average starting salary is 53,300.
Mm-hmm.
With a PhD, it's 79,664.
Wow.
Huge difference, isn't it?
It is.
So imagine how much more you're going to make through your lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at the unemployment figures. 5.2%, 2.5%.
Wow.
Why wouldn't you do it? It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
Very true. So, if we move on to the fourth question, what nugget of advice would you give to an aspiring student who wants to be an engineer one day?
Get a PhD and become a professor. That's it. If you don't get a PhD, it could mean that you don't have a good GPA. If that's the case, there's nothing you can do about it. But if you do have a GPA, you have a choice. To get a good GPA, once you come out here, is your choice. So when you said, go back to the first question that I asked you, managing time,
Mm-hmm.
that's very difficult because you have to manage time so that you get a good GPA.
Mm-hmm.
Graduate education is free. You don't have to pay for it. In engineering.
Really?
It's free. Make a note. Another quote. Graduate education in engineering is free.
How is that?
Professors pay you to do research. So once you've got a good GPA, you take the equivalent of a SAT exam. It's called the GRE, and then once you've got go through that exam, then you apply to places, and professors pay you to be their research assistants, and tuition is covered and things like that.
Oh. So, this isn't on the questions, but how do you believe your PhD has helped you in your everyday life? As far as problem solving and becoming
Well,
a better individual.
What it's helped me is to become a professor. Finished. I mean, if I didn't have a PhD, I wouldn't be a professor.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Alrighty, well, I appreciate your time.
So let me ask you now, what are you taking away from this?
I found, 'cause beforehand, before coming into this interview, I was honestly questioning how far to pursue education. I saw it as more of a requirement, like, this degree will get me this far, this degree will get me this far, and just kind of an optional. But afterwards I see what you're saying, that the PhD is very important.
Let me give you another story. There's a bill being put through Congress right now where they're talking about giving green cards to people who get higher degrees out here. Right? Why are they doing it? Who's making the big bucks here? Let me tell you. At the undergraduate level, let's say there are 5% international students. At the master's level, close to 70% are international. At the PhD
Wow.
level, close to 90% are international. Who's making the big bucks?
Wow.
Just think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So now this country comes along and says, hey, guess what? We want to keep these guys
Mhm.
because our people are not getting it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm here.
Very true.
So why would you not want to get the big bucks?
Haven't thought about it that way. It's opened up a whole new realm of thinking. Like you said, I mean,
Here are the numbers.
it shouldn't be optional. It should be how far can you get? It's a ladder, and you got to
How
climb all
far
the
do
way.
you want to go up the ladder? To what extent do you want to take charge of your own education?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you came along and said, I have a lousy GPA, well, somebody else is controlling you. You have no option to go on to graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
All you do is to go into industry, and okay.
Mm-hmm.
Out there, then somebody will say, do this, do this. When you're done, they'll say, we don't need you. The job has been exported or whatever else has
Mhm.
happened to it.
So do you feel that you've had, as being one of the top in the engineering department, do you feel that you've been able to impact even the students at your level?
Yes, of course. I mean, the fact that you're here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing another one at 4 o'clock.
Wow. Very big impact.
I'm seeing a person in high school at 10 o'clock on Friday. And this is not even in class. This is just people
Mhm.
who are coming in to talk to me.
Wow. Yeah, I'm very honored that you would take the time to talk to me.
I talk to everybody. I told you that.
It's amazing to be able to talk to somebody. Like I said, I have a lot of respect for you and what you've done.
Thank you.
And you really are a role model and a hero for me.
Good. So you could tell Pulat that.
Alrighty.